Hello and welcome to another episode of Pause for Payments. I am Kristy Duncan and I am really delighted to have with me today Mareska Tiveron, who is VP of Legal, Regulatory and Compliance at Zoop in Sao Paulo. Welcome, Mareska.
Thank you, Kristy. Thank you for having me. Excited to be speaking to you.
Indeed. For today's discussion, I'd like to explore the topic of the complexity of the payments infrastructure. To the uninitiated, the people who aren't in our industry, payments might seem quite simple, but there's actually a lot of complexity that goes on behind the scenes. And Mareska's been in this industry for 20 years now and has got a really fantastic insider perspective on how payments work. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion. Mareska, can you tell us a little bit about Zoop and how it fits into the payments ecosystem in Brazil?
Okay, Zoop is a fintech as a service, white label platform, B2B2C for payments, banking and credit in Brazil. The payments industry in the country is strongly regulated, highly concentrated. Here, 70% of the payment market is still concentrated in the top two acquirers. On the other hand, there is a huge opportunity for companies willing to launch innovative solutions and reach specific consumer segments with payments. For example, credit cards. Credit cards have only 38% penetration among Brazilians, and you see 60% in most major countries. And here, 45 million citizens are current and banked. So Zoop's purpose is to democratize financial services in Brazil, enabling other business to offer financial services as well in a simple and safe way. Partners, we call partners our clients, use Zoop's APIs to create, offer, and operate payments and financial services, leveraging their own brands and tapping into local consumers' needs. So Zoop has over 600 partners from all segments, payment services providers, e-commerce platforms, enterprises, providing solutions, retaining their clients and making profits from both physical and online financial transactions. So our platform can connect the both universe, the physical and online financial transactions.
Wow, this sounds really complex. And you've got so many different partners in the ecosystem that it makes it a big job to keep that all running with, very few errors and all of the online infrastructure for e-commerce, plus the bricks and mortar face-to-face POS infrastructure out in the field. Wow, that's really interesting. And what I love is I'm finding out more and more about the Brazilian payments ecosystem is that it's quite advanced. And when it comes to fintechs, there's a lot of new innovation in the payments market in Brazil. Can you tell us maybe why do you think that is, Mareska?
This is a recent phenomenon that was possible by a combination of technology and advances in legislation. For a long time, here in Brazil, few traditional financial institutions, I think, dominated the market without suffering much competition. Before the popularization of the internet, the capillarity of bank branches, for example, was the key for rich customers and offer products throughout our big continental size territory. The need of this massive physical presence by itself was a huge a huge entry barrier for new competitors. In addition, there were regulatory aspects such as high minimum capital requirements that made it hard to establish new business in the areas of payments and financial services. The popularization of the internet in the mid-90s made it possible for Brazilians at first to try the convenience of digital channels on the traditional banks. At the same time, we saw the emergence of completely new startups and aiming to make simpler, cheaper, and more intuitive solutions feasible for consumers. The current Brazilian central bank's policy and agenda encourage fintech startups. Here in Brazil, we have more people using smartphone and having access to this type of technology than people having bank accounts and have access to the financial system. So the Brazilian Central Bank wants to match this by adding the financial inclusion to its agenda. Technology and startups are helping Brazilians to correct some distortions in payments and financial services, such as the excessive requirements, concentration and credit concentration, and the complete lack of basic financial services to almost 1/3 of the adult population.
Wow, that's incredible. It's really fantastic to see the support of the central bank to try to push and encourage financial inclusion across the population in Brazil, because that's actually really surprising to hear that the Brazilian population has more smartphone users than bank account holders.
Yeah.
So that's a tremendous opportunity for Zoop and others to bring those unbanked people into the fold and offer them services that they've never enjoyed before.
Yeah, we say we have different cultures inside the same country here, because you have a population in northeast of Brazil, for example, and a big quantity of people that they don't have bank account, they have never access to this financial system, but they have the smartphone in their hands, and so it's a huge opportunity here.
Yes, for sure. And that unbanked population, we know it's such a huge opportunity. How do you think the fintechs can actually help to facilitate bringing them into the financial fold?
I think those Brazilians are unserved by a variety of facts, from do not reaching the minimum requirements to open an account in a traditional bank, for example, minimum wage, documents, and everything, or do not having a formal job, for example, and not understanding the language used by bank clerks, and as a consequence, not feeling welcome by traditional banks, and they feel distant from them. Fintechs are providing solutions tailored to the needs of those citizens. For example, providing a simpler onboarding process to digital accounts, or offering financial services more focused on basic transactions, such as payments and money transfers, providing access to microcredit, allowing formal small business to receive credit card payments. And this has a huge impact on those people's financial lives. It helps, for example, in financial education, once they can visualize their monthly income in a bank statement instead of moving small cashes, small amounts of cash every day. So it becomes easier to understand how much they can spend. And it also helps them to assess credits to invest in their business, small things, such as allowing a small restaurant to invest in its own delivery system, for example. In the end, we have a very positive effect on the entire country.
Wow, that is so exciting. It's such an uncharted territory, if you will, and so much opportunity there. Fantastic. So you, Mareska, have focused much of your career on fintech and financial services, both of which are traditionally very male dominated. How have you managed to be heard in this environment? How do you manage to make your voice heard and to play with the big guys?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about that. As a lawyer, it's clear for me that we all, men and women, have the same rights. So the same right to express our opinion, the same right to be promoted, the same right to make mistakes, the same right to be irritated sometimes in our place, especially when we are talking about women in leadership. I always remember that famous question: what's the difference between being assertive and being aggressive? The gender.
Yeah.
So let's show that we are also being assertive when we make a strong statement, for example. And as a risk professional, I need to make a lot of strong statements almost every day in the meetings and in my routine. And I think another role as a director of compliance, I am connected to the inclusion and diversity agenda of the company Zoop and group Movely. So it's another way and alternatives to be heard, and sometimes open the microphone, and in the Zoom meetings, we deserved the same opportunity to talk. So I open the microphone and insist to talk. I think imposter syndrome. No, I think we as women, it's very common, this kind of syndrome, the imposter syndrome. It's like, am I ready? Am I good enough? Women has often a mindset that if you are not perfect, we are not ready. We don't deserve a new job, new position, because we are not perfect. And we need to focus and recognize our strengths instead our weakness. This is a typical male behavior, and they are right. I think they are right, and let's do it. There are, on the other hand, I think I really believe that there are no guilties or enemies, to fight and to kill. I think, however, there is a huge challenge indeed. And I think the challenge is the male dominating culture around the world. And another big challenge that we women facing every day is our perfectionism. And it's important I think it's important to engage men join us to the diversity and inclusion journey. You know, I think it's a good idea. It's a good alternative to get there. Equitable environment and diversity bring more efficiency to the organization, and it's fact. So we have a great and good reasons to be heard.
Mhm.
even in a male dominant environment and segment, because you are completely correct. And when you talk about financial services and technology, it's still true. It's a male dominant environment.
It is, and that's, it's not just in Brazil, it's pretty much everywhere in the world. But we're making strides, positive strides to change that. And I think when we do, we will see some fantastic benefits, increased employee engagement, better connection and empathy for our customers. And studies have even shown that companies with more women at leadership levels actually are more innovative and file more patents, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great reflection on what women can bring to the table. And you're right.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason why we shouldn't have an equal voice at the table, and for the benefit of all, really. It's a great opportunity that we all have in our organizations. Mareska, for my last question, I want to talk about your amazing career. And you've had a successful career, starting in legal and then moving into this really interesting payments ecosystem. Can you tell the audience what you would tell your younger self if you're just starting a career in this industry now as a woman?
Yep. I started my career in payments almost 20 years ago. I fell in love with the segment and the subject. But I remember that at the beginning, there was a director, Erna is the name is, that she was very inspiring for me. And nowadays, when I see my team, and when I see the young Zoopers, that the women Zoopers, I try to transmit the message that we can do it, and it's possible. Nothing is impossible. But I think it's like an advice, if I would advise, I think is learn a lot always, work hard, very hard. We need to prove ourselves more than our male peers. This is still true today, unfortunately. So work hard, but believe in yourself. You don't need to be perfect to be promoted. You don't need to be perfect to be accepted, and to accept a new job, a new position, a new role. Actually, you don't need to waiting for. You can ask for. Nobody's perfect. Nobody knows everything. Believe in it. Nobody knows everything, and we are not alone. We can do it together, and faster together, actually.
Yeah. These are really great insights, Mareska. I love this lifelong learning. I love the believe in yourself. And you're right, that imposter syndrome plagues so many of us. I mean, myself included. I always thought, oh my gosh, like I should be able to do this better. Someone's going to discover that, I don't know everything, or I'm not perfect, or I screwed up on something, and it's going to just never disappear off my reputation for the rest of my life. But you're right. We can support each other. And I think you're doing something really important, and that is you are being a role model now for the younger rising stars in both in Zoop as well as across the industry. So I think
at Zoop we have a group, the diversity group, and we can discuss and talk about gender issues, but racism and another subject about inclusion. And I represent the group. I am the voice to trying to educate, and actually I believe we need to talk about. We need more than talk. We need to implement. And that's the challenge, because we are seeing a good movement globally, and companies are worried, are concerned about diversity, and with a lot of posts in LinkedIn, for example, and we are hiring women to this role and position, and actually this is good. I think we can be happy, but everybody is good on the paper, all the companies are good on the paper, on policies, and the harder step is to implement this, in fact. So this is my goal with in this aspect here with this group, and I really believe that we can make a difference if we talk about that, if we try to educate about the difference, and we need faster together. We need to join and do.
And I think this is the difference between the corporate policy, what we've got on paper, and the corporate culture, what actually happens in the organization on a day-to-day basis. And they're not always aligned. Mm-hmm. For example, a corporation might have a parental leave policy that invites both parents to take time off after a child is born. Mm-hmm. But unless some of the senior men take that and show the junior men that it's okay and it won't give you a big black mark on your reputation, then the junior men are afraid to do it. They think, oh no, that's not really for men. Real men don't take parental leave. So I use that as kind of an example, is the difference between policy and culture.
Yeah. I think this is the challenge.
Yes, and so you're right to really open the dialogue, to promote that understanding across the organization, but also across the different strands of diversity between the men and the women and the other diverse people in the organization. It's really, really important. So your work is very important, Mareska.
Yeah, it's a long way, and that's why we needed to talk about every day about that. And it's not easy to change the legislation, for example, the labor legislation, and it's a long way. But I think we can do that, because when we analyze the past and not so distant past, we can see that women is in a better place than our parents, than our grandparents. So I think it's important to. I think each of leaders, of women leaders, can make difference in our ecosystem, you know. So I am happy when I can help the girls and the young professionals that are afraid to start or to face a challenge, a professional challenge, and I can encourage and I can.
Well, your leadership is really important, Mareska. Thank you so much for doing all that you do. That on the Zoop side with promoting and building financial inclusion across the whole country of Brazil through your hundreds of partners. That's absolutely fantastic. And I am really interested to see when and how Brazil will actually start getting more people with bank accounts than smartphones. That's a really good goal to have. But you got the support of the central bank, which is fantastic. And the role that you play at Zoop and across our industry as a woman leader and a role model is also really important. So thank you so much for doing that. It's so important.
Thank you, Kristy. It was a pleasure.
My absolute pleasure. So thank you for your time today, Mareska. I am going to encourage all of our audience to join us online for this and the many other Pause for Payments discussions that we have with fantastic women leaders like Mareska from around the world of payments. And thank everybody for listening.